We'll start off with a bit of introduction as to the 180 team who are hosting this today. We're very excited to get to know you a bit more across the next hour or so. So to start off, my name is Corey. I'm the president of 180 Degrees Consulting, University of Melbourne. I'm currently in my third year of a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in literature and philosophy. I've been at 180 for, I think this is coming into my sixth semester now. So I started as a project consultant. I was on the executive team as people and culture director and made my way here now. I'll pass on to Ethan to introduce himself next.
Hi everyone, I'm Ethan. I'm the Vice President of UniDC at Melbourne. I'm currently in my third year of Bachelor of Commerce and I'm going into my fifth semester at 180. So super excited for this semester ahead. Pass on to Joelle now.
Yep. Hi everyone, I'm Joelle. I'm currently the People and Culture Director of 180. I'm in my third year of the Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in Finance and Marketing, and this is my fourth semester in 180. So I've been a project consultant, team leader, and now I am the People and Culture Director. Super excited to have you guys here with us, and I'll pass it on to Haroon to introduce himself.
Yep, hi guys. I'm Harun. I am the People and Culture Officer, and this is my second sem in 180, and I am a going into my second year Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in Econs and Finance. Yep, I think I'll pass it on to Ryan.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan. I'm a second year commerce student majoring in finance and economics. I'm going to my third semester of 180 now. My first ever semester was as a project consultant. Last sem I was a team leader, and I'll be doing another sem of team leader this sem.
Amazing. Well, that's our team, and you'll get to hear a bit more from the rest of them across today. In terms of what we'll be going through today as well, on the next slide, there's a bit of an agenda. So, Joel, if we can go on to the next slide. Sweet. So, yes, we've just introduced ourselves, and for the next few minutes, I'll be talking a bit about 180, a bit more about what we do, because we understand, it can sometimes be a bit hard to grasp from just socials alone. So, we'll be talking a bit more about our mission and what we achieve through the work we do. Then, Joel will go through the positions that are currently open for recruitment, what we're looking for, what the criteria are, and what you can expect from each role. Then we'll also have some application tips afterwards in terms of problem solving, application skills, behavioral component advice. You'll then get to hear from Ryan and Harun about their past experiences at 180, what they've learned, how they've grown, and things that they would recommend you to do during the recruitment process. And at the end of all of this, you'll have a chance to ask us any questions that might be on your mind. No question is a stupid question, so feel free to prepare those as you watch the content today. But yeah, we'll start a bit on 180 and who we are. So essentially, 180 Degrees Consulting, we're the world's largest pro bono consultancy for nonprofits and social enterprises in the world. So what that means is every semester, these amazing nonprofits come to us with a problem they might have. That could be they're lacking volunteers, they don't have a strong fundraising strategy. There's a diverse range of issues, which we'll go into a bit later. And we'll spend the whole semester I was doing a lot of research, analysis, conducting interviews, surveys to help them solve their most pressing issues and therefore help them increase the social impact they make onto the community. So we've helped clients from Headspace to Red Cross Australia, and honestly, the client list is so wide, and I think that's probably one of my favorite parts about being at 180. We'll talk a bit more about our clients later. Another thing to note is that 180 is a global organization, so we coincidentally have over 180 branches worldwide. I'd say the University of Melbourne one is quite advanced in terms of the other organizations, so you can see some of the stats on the side. We've previously won Best Branch, we have quite a high client satisfaction score, and we have a lot of past project experience. So that's a bit about who we are as an organization, but what are the type of people that we recruit for? Who are we looking for? So on the next slide, a bit on our team. So we select people who care about social impact and share a purpose to make the world a better place, but at the same time are very hardworking and, strive to be the best in what they do. So it's really nice to be in an environment of excellence, but also with a lot of people who care about making the world a better place. In terms of our expertise, you can see that we have quite a range of diversity. I think coming into maybe a lot of like conventionally what's seen as commerce clubs, people think they need to have certain backgrounds or certain criterias to get into this club or to do well in this club. I can say that's definitely not the case. We celebrate diversity here. I myself am from an arts background, but I'm president now, so clearly diversity is a good thing. We have 25 PCs, 10 project leaders a semester. We have a lot of people on our operations side who help make our club run the way that it does. And as you can see, we have a lot of alumni. We've cultivated this strong community over the years from people who have dabbled in all these roles. So at the bottom, you can also see a bit of where we work. So a lot of our amazing community members have gone on to work in some incredible places, and we're very lucky to have them come back and help us in different capacities along the way. So if you're a part of our community, I guess that's an advantage. You get to learn from all these amazing people. So that's who we are, but in terms of the qualities we're recruiting for in particular, so obviously passion for social impact. Sorry, we'll go back to the previous page. Yes, so passion for social impact, but on top of that, some prior work experience as well. It doesn't have to be directly consulting related. I definitely had no consulting experience when I came into 180. I just used kind of some of my other work experiences to demonstrate that I was capable for the role. So for example, like tutoring, customer service roles, you develop problem solving and communication skills. So we just want to know that you're capable in a professional environment. You think outside of the box, you work well with other people, and you're naturally friendly, and you have a growth mindset and you can stay resilient because I guess a part of consulting is that you'll inevitably have hard situations along the way. So that's a bit about us. On to the next slide. Our value proposition. So, as I mentioned, we are a global organization, which is one of our strengths as well. I guess in terms of our learning and development program, the resources we use, those are from some of the best people in the industry, not just in Australia, but across the world. So we really leverage that expertise to help upskill, I guess, the next generation of social impact leaders, but also make sure that our projects are of a very high quality. I guess that means we're very impact driven as well, right? So we're really aiming to make the social sector more effective. But what's the core part of our value proposition, at least from my perspective, is that we're a student-based club. We're a pro bono consultancy run by UniMelb students, and I think that's what makes our organization more kind of feel like a family and more like a community than anything else. Because, at the same time, we acknowledge we're all students trying to do our best, and we can be here for each other, help each other with our studies or with academics and with social lives as well. So there's a lot of different benefits to get from being a part of 180. It's not just work experience, it's not just learning, but it's also, finding friends when it's kind of hard to do that in a university setting. At least I'd say so myself. So that's a bit about 180 and who we are. Feel free to ask any questions about that towards the end. I'll touch on now a bit about our projects and what that looks like. So I guess with our projects, as you might have seen from our socials, we're recruiting for team leaders and project consultants. So again, like I mentioned, we run around 5 projects every semester, tackling a wide range of problems. You can see here, I wouldn't even say this is an exhaustive list, but there's quite a few points here. These are the different types of projects we tackle with. I won't go onto each one in depth, but you can have a read for yourself. I guess some things I want to say here is that what's really cool about this is that we have lots of past projects to draw from on each of these different topics or problems. And being exposed to this, you get to know how to help these clients, yes, but you're also exposed to different ways of enhancing a business model, operational models, which you can then take into your future experiences, not just in case interviews, but even in your future internships, graduate roles. I know myself, like during my internships, I would take parts of my 180 projects to help inform some of the things I'd say, things I'd recommend that people would really like. So that's one of the benefits from these competencies, but this is a bit of insight into what we do. Some of these words might be new to you guys, which is totally fine. I know when I was starting out, I wouldn't have known what half of these things meant. So if you do have any questions around that, any jargon, I mean, obviously you can do your research, but also ask any of us either towards the end of this webinar or just in general as well. I guess that's one of the other value propositions of 180. It's that it's a learning experience, and we acknowledge that wholeheartedly. Next slide is not just our core competencies, but also who we work with. So I find this is like also one of the most exciting parts. As I mentioned before, I think why I love 180 so much is that it gives me a pathway to create positive impact in a way that I guess you normally wouldn't be able to do during your university career. So it's a very unique opportunity in that way. But here you can see we work with clients from a wide range of sectors. And this list isn't even exhaustive in itself. We've worked with other clients from different other different sectors as well. But you can see some notable names. Maybe you recognize them. We've worked with health organizations, education-based organizations, social justice, poverty, and even environmentally motivated organizations too, that work with a vast array of different communities to help make a positive impact and again, make the social sector more effective in Australia. And what's also brilliant about this is that we work with both local organizations, but also national Australia-wide organizations too. So if you have any questions about our clients as well, about the projects, you want to know more about our experiences in general with them, again, feel free to ask either at the end of this webinar or also outside of this webinar too. We're always happy to help. But I'll now pass on to Ethan to delve into what a project looks like in depth.
Thanks, Corey. So I guess these next three slides will look at the project workflow and project cycles here at 180. I understand it might be a bit jarring, so feel free to ask any questions like right now about what I'm about to say. So this first slide here, we have a case study on one of the projects we just completed last semester, which I was working with The Break. They're basically a local NFP based in Caulfield who support individuals through anger management, mindfulness, and relapse prevention. But here, the main challenge was that we need to develop a pricing and marketing strategy as part of the new go-to-market plan for a full-day program. Essentially, they wanted to enter the market with a new program to support their clients. In terms of how we split up the project, we split up to three main pillars, I guess, starting with defining the problem, understanding the situation, and the key challenges faced by the client. So here we consulted our external advisor as well. So this was our project mentor. So each, I guess, project is supported with a project mentor externally. So we were lucky enough to be paired with someone from BCG, which was Jeremy, who was really helpful in providing us with the necessary support to provide a great recommendation. Moving on to the next pillar is the research and analysis, arguably the most time-consuming part, because doing a lot of the research, conducting interviews, talking to the client probably takes up the most amount of time and actually boiling down into what the recommendation we want to provide is. So Ryan is also in this call. Ryan was a team leader on this project, and he spent countless hours conducting the right financial analysis and evaluation and conducting interviews to get the right pricing recommendation. After this, we synthesize the recommendations. This is basically putting it all into a deliverable and making it digestible for the client to understand. Often what the client wants to know is just like a 1 to 2 slide summary on the next steps and what they should do right now. All the other analysis is really important for us to do, but at the end of the day, the client just wants to know the answer. Yes, we can walk them through all the steps and it's good for them to know, but what actually is useful for the client is often just the answer. And because of all the hard work, we received really great feedback. You can read the client feedback in the top right, which says 180DC were able to provide details others had been unable to find, so those within the organization. And we also exceeded expectations. That was really fulfilling for us, which lead back to our local communities. Moving on. So here's a quick project timeline. The slide's a bit full, but as you can see, we have a 12-week outline on what a typical project looks like. So the reason why we're recruiting now is because we start the projects in week one, where teams are onboarded and briefed through the project scope. And here we start to delve deeper into the key problem and understand the context of the project. After this, we have the data collection and research. This is mainly supported by a lot of, I guess, desktop research, conducting a lot of research online into whether that be best practice or competitor analysis, and also interviewing the client, trying to extract all the data we can, and then putting that into actionables and into actual recommendations for the client. In terms of that top part, project brief and contract, that's more on our side where the executives, so myself, or any consulting directors, Maddie and Abby, will conduct the project scope. And we're doing that right now so we can get the clients for semester two. In terms of the interim review, this is kind of a mid-project check-in about week 6 and week 7, where you guys, the project teams, will present your findings so far back to 180, back to the rest of the committee to see what you've been up to over the past 6 or 7 weeks. Then following this by week 11, by week 12, hopefully you guys would have completed the project, done everything you guys have need to. And that brings us to the end of the semester where it's on you guys to present your final recommendations to both the client and then back to 180 DC to show us what you guys have been working on. We could move on. Thanks, Joel. So in terms of quality assurance, here at 180, we like to make sure that our projects are supported as best as they can be, so we can make sure we're providing our clients with the right studies and right recommendations that they generally deserve. So here our quality assurance is threefold. It's split up to three main parts. So I'll start with the professional project staffing. In terms of the team structure, each project's staffed by 2 team leaders and then also 5 project consultants, allowing multiple team members to review and provide diverse viewpoints. Essentially, by having 2 team leaders, we can have 2 people at the top managing and overseeing everything, and also 5 project consultants providing enough, I guess, research and opinions to come up with a diverse and full strategy. Next is our next level of staffing, which is an executive buddy. So each project will have 1 to 2 executive buddies basically overseeing a project. So an executive buddy could be anyone from the executive team. For example, it could be me, Corey, or Joel from this call. And all of us would have done numerous projects here at 180. So we would have enough experience, hopefully, to guide the project if anything goes wrong. And we're able to provide our expertise to better support the project and ensure high quality deliverables. And on top of that, we have our project mentors. Like I mentioned before, with the break, we had a project mentor from BCG guide us along the way. So each project mentor is basically someone from a professional consulting firm, hopefully MBB, which they bring years of professional consulting experience and can help us support and guide us during the semester. So we do this with the goal of maintaining, I guess, high quality assurance. And an average team will normally work with a project mentor. We'll do like a catch up every fortnight. Moving on. So next, we also have diverse feedback and sources. So in terms of splitting them up, we'll start with the executive review. So each project deliverable is also screened by our consulting directors, Maddie and Abby, and also other members of our executive team and consulting portfolio before interim and final presentations to make sure that everything is going well and on track. Next is our committee feedback, where all of our members of 180 DC will provide feedback and presentations, and also during training sessions before they are finally presented to the clients. And then moving on, arguably the most important, what the clients think of our deliverables. So during weekly or fortnightly check-ins, depending on when you decide to meet with your client, clients will also have the opportunity to offer feedback, which will allow us to adjust our deliverables as needed by our clients. And lastly, we have constant communication. So here at 180 DC, we have multiple contact points with our project deliverables being screened by CDs, multiple members of our exec team again. But more importantly, this communication is also really important where clients have the ability to adjust the direction of the project if necessary. I remember last semester we had a couple of projects where we started another direction, but then suddenly the client wanted to kind of switch gears and identify that they needed to prioritize something different. So any change, it can also be communicated and then I guess be moved on. And lastly, meaningful connections. Our organization is committed to building meaningful and lasting relationships with our clients. So we get to focus on knowing our clients and understanding their unique needs. I know that was quite a lot, and you guys might be a bit confused, but I guess beyond other projects and all that jargon, we are also more than just a consulting club. We have plenty of culture throughout 180DC, whether that be on retreat, team bonding, going to dinners, playing cricket, as you can see on the top left, and doing little dress-up games. So if you're joining 180, you're not just here for the projects as well, but you can also be part of amazing club culture supported by our lovely PNC directors. Here are some photos of us at the Commerce Ball and also playing volleyball and going on a little hike. That's all for there. Thank you. I'll now pass on to Joelle to go through the positions we are recruiting for.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan and Corey, for sharing about 180 so far. So I'm sure many of you guys are interested in which positions that we're recruiting for this time round. And for project side, we're currently recruiting for project consultants. So the applications for this will actually be open slightly later after the team leader and officer applications close, if you guys have been following our Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, for project consultant, we're mostly looking for people who have like a really key willingness to learn, enjoy critical thinking, are willing to collaborate, and have key time management. And the key responsibilities that project consultants usually have would be to attend weekly meetings and internal events. So this could be like branch meetings and even internal trainings that we hold with BCG and even McKinsey, alongside completing all the weekly tasks assigned by their team leaders. We will also have to deconstruct client issues by conducting research, for example, competitor analysis, and also developing comprehensive solutions as well. And lastly, project consultants are expected to actively contribute to discussions and the final deliverables of the project, which would usually be in the form of a PowerPoint. And I think we've had some projects in the past semesters where it was Excel like formula. And I think, yeah, but it's usually like for PowerPoints. So I think one key thing to note is that the time commitment for project consultants would be about 5 to 10 hours because of all you have weekly team meetings, branch meetings every week, and also social activities as well. That would be great if everybody could join. And you can refer to the pictures over on the right to see how a team meeting would be. So that is for the break, which is headed by Ryan this semester, and also Variety Victoria. And moving on to the next project side role that we're recruiting for, that would be for team leader, which applications have already opened for. So if you're a strategic thinker and you enjoy helping people reach their goals, I think this will be a perfect chance for you to, explore that area that you enjoy, because team leaders are meant to guide all the project consultants, the 5 project consultants that you are working with. So some of the key responsibilities that team leaders have would be to lead weekly meetings, attend internal events alongside their consultants, and provide strategic project direction through delegation and feedback. So that could look like setting up timelines and also setting up a flow of how the project would be throughout the semester. And I think, as Ethan mentioned, sometimes the project scope also changes. So team leaders do have to be on top of the game and change the project direction as suited, and also change the task and timeline that the project would be following. Alongside that, we will also expect team leaders to manage all the communication between the team itself and the client. So the team leader is actually the one that's liaising with the client about what time, like when the meeting times are, when like a site visit could be done and everything. So all this while also providing regular project updates to the executive team, for example, the executive buddies, or even for the like midterm like check-ins as well. And lastly, team leaders are also expected to ensure that all the deliverables are completed on time and effectively manage, motivate, support, and mentor your project consultants. So we are looking for people who have some leadership skills, are willing to delegate effectively, have efficient problem-solving skills, and are also willing to improve on their stakeholder management skills. And we do estimate that this role will take about 10 to 12 hours because we do have a lot more time having to, construct like training materials with your clients and training materials with your project consultants, planning out meetings, and also liaising with the client takes a bit more time than a project consultant would. And you can see on the right over there, there's a picture of me and my team from the previous few semesters, and also I think a bonding event during the branch meeting. So yeah, this is what you can look forward to if you apply for team leader. Now moving on to the operations positions that we are recruiting for. So the applications for this have already been open, so it's just the officer roles that we are recruiting for right now. And we are recruiting for one people and culture officer. So if you are energized by people and want to be a part of building the 180 community, we would be happy to have you as our people and culture officer. And some responsibilities that people and culture officers are in charge of would be organizing club bonding events, planning their logistical aspects, and gaining like having like interest gauging and like executing the event smoothly. For example, of weekly volleyball like matches that we had, and also the most important would be retreat and the bonding activities for the branch meeting as well. And some of the key characteristics that we look for would be having organizational skills, being a people person, being willing to know more about people and learn more about people, and also having proactiveness, in engaging with people as well. And of course, very importantly, would be time management, because as people and culture officer, you would be expected to attend all of the social events as well and make sure, people are engaging with each other and also strengthening the bond within 180. So yeah, expected time commitment for this would be 5 to 10 hours as well, given that there are multiple social events throughout the week. For example, dinners after branch meetings, the weekly like social volleyball games, and also planning for your future branch meetings. Yeah. We are also recruiting for an events officer. So some key responsibilities that events officers will be in charge of would be managing communications with the various event stakeholders and handling the booking of events, booking of venues and catering for the events, alongside assisting the marketing team with event details such as creating necessary materials like presentations and also name tags for attendees as well. And lastly would be to ensure mandatory attendance at all 180 DC events. So our branch meetings, our project showcases at the end of the semester, and even our meet and greet evening. And some key characteristics that we are looking for would be, again, organizational skills, stakeholder management, time management, and also event planning skills would be great. And we would expect a time commitment of about 5 to 10 hours a week. So if you can see on the right, some of the events that we have are our social impact evenings, where we have speakers coming to speak about their experience, and also the BCG times 180 case competition that we have also planned for. Okay, moving on to the next role will be our marketing officer role. So if you are creative and have a passion for designing and marketing and are also interested in social impact, this would be a great role for you, because marketing officers will have to assist in creating visually compelling and professional graphics and videos to promote 180 DC, alongside communicating with other portfolios to see what events or what other promotional materials will need to be done, alongside attending all 180 DC events to, make sure that you have content for content creation, capturing photos and videos to promote 180, and also furthering like our social impact mission as well. And I think very exciting thing would be also the release of merchandise for 2025. So some key characteristics that we're looking for would be having some designing skills or the desire to learn how to design, and also some creativity. If you have ideas about how to market 180 DC or how to market social impact, that would be great. Alongside strategic adaptability and also campaign optimization to improve the outreach of 180 DC. So for this, we will also expect a time commitment of 5 to 10 hours. If you can see on the right, these are some examples of the posts that our lovely marketing team has done up over this semester. I think very engaging, very fun, and we're looking forward to having a creative person on board. Yep. So this would be our last officer role that we are recruiting for. It will be the partnerships officer role. So if you would like to support the team in developing and maintaining relationships with partners such as BCG, Kearney, Bain, McKinsey, this will be a great chance for you to do so because our officers are very much they directly liaison with the clients as well and also our sponsors. So officers will also be expected to attend all partnerships meetings and 180 external events as mandatory to foster strong collaborations with our clients. Yeah. Officers will also be expected to collaborate to refine the 180 partnerships and career strategy, which includes outreach efforts to the broader student community. So those who aren't, those who are part of our general member committee as well. And some key characteristics we're looking for would be having, sufficient networking skills, communication, partner management, and an eye for developing professional growth within our community. We do expect a time commitment of about 5 to 10 hours as well for this role. Yeah, so that is my spiel on the roles that we have. And now moving on to the recruitment process that we are currently looking at. For officers, we're looking at online applications from 30th June to 9th of July. So that's about 3 more days for you guys to get your applications in. And we have one written response to the question and also one video response that would be correspondent to the portfolio that you're applying for. Then the next stage, if you are successful, will be the interview stage where there'll be a group case component and an individual interview with your director. And lastly, we have our offer that will be out by 15th of July, and there'll be a meet and greet on the 30th of July for all the potential project consultants and also the accepted officer and team leaders that are accepted into 180. Yeah. Next up will be the team leader recruitment process. So that's also the same as the officer application. But one thing that's different would be during the interview stage, the team leaders will have a motivational and behavioral component, which is then followed by a case interview. And same as officers, the offers will be out by 15th of July, and team leaders are also free, also invited to attend the meet and greet on the 30th of July. Yes. And lastly, for the project consultant recruitment process, this will open on the 11th of July and close on the 23rd of July. So that is Wednesday of O week, if I'm not wrong. This gives you guys a chance to actually visit us at our booth. So if you do want to have some face-to-face interaction with us or you want to ask us questions in real life, feel free to do so during O week because we will have some stalls at the FB side, I think. And how this will go about for project consultant recruitment would be there's an online application with one written response and also a video response, and then it will be followed by an interview that is an individual interview with behavioral and motivational questions, and then the meet and greet where project consultants applicants would be able to meet our wider community to learn about us and also so that we can learn more about you outside of just interviews and getting to just know you on a more personal level as well, because we do want to have people that will be able to enjoy 180 as well. And our offers will be out by the 1st of August, and there will be a welcome day on the 2nd of August. So that is it for our recruitment process. I will now pass it on back to Ethan for our case assessment tips.
Cool, thanks, Joel. I think we had a slight hiccup in the slide. So just to reiterate, with project consultant for the interview process, there is a group case component which will last about 40 minutes, which is followed by a 15-minute behavioral and motivational interview. So that's what is needed. Okay. I don't know what I was seeing then. I was tripping out. But these case tips will be important for both team leader and project consultant positions. So let's start. Here at 180, we develop or we use a 7-step framework that can be adopted for, I guess, effective problem solving. So you split into defining the problem, breaking down the problem, then prioritizing the issue, conducting analysis and research, synthesizing findings, developing recommendations, and then followed finally by communicating analysis and the recommendation. Here today, we want to focus on breaking down the problem because we think this will be most useful in the case you guys will face during the interview stage. So we're going to start off with what is MISI. If you guys haven't heard of what MISI is before, MISI means mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, where mutually exclusive means there's like no overlap between any issues identified, and then collectively exhaustive means a comprehensive list of issues. So making sure we cover all our bases, but also making sure none of our, I guess, buckets overlap or any of our issues overlap to make sure we're, I guess, seeing the big picture and not missing anything when identifying what the problem actually is. We can move on. So on this slide, we have an example of what not MISI is. So we have a deck of poker cards, and if we break this down into its components, we can see we have spades, clubs, queen, king, and joker. But this isn't entirely MISI. Why? Because you can have a card that is both a queen and a spade, for example, a queen of spades, where they fit into both these two categories. But an example of what MISI actually is, we could go next, Joel, is basically a list that includes all the types of cards, but has no overlap. So we have all the suits, including spades, clubs, diamonds, and hearts, but also the joker to make sure we're covering all our bases. And if we look here, none of these overlap because they're all suits, and we don't have like any number or face cards. So we don't have like a king here. So there's no overlap. I guess maybe we can move on to some more tangible examples. Well, first, we want to introduce an issue tree and I guess some frameworks that can be used to approach and then also break down problems in problem. So there's a couple of frameworks that you guys might have encountered before or haven't encountered, which is perfectly fine. I remember when I first did like a 180 case, I had never done a case before, so everything was new to me. So this is the reason why we're doing this, so you guys can kind of get a glimpse of what is expected. So I guess an easy one is, or an easier, more common one is profitability, which looks at revenue and costs, or if you want to look at revenue, we might look at price and volume. And if you want to look at marketing, what's important is price, the products we're marketing, the place it's marketed, and the promotion used. And if we go to the next part of this slide, we can use an issue tree to identify potential root causes of the problem. So breaking down the problem into its issue and then sub-issues can help us identify what is actually causing the problem. And then from there, we can create solutions to address each root cause to make sure we're covering all the problems our client is facing. So we have a quick case study here. If you guys would like to, I guess, use the comment function or just unmute your mic. So the problem is, why is company X's profit decreasing? So starting with a decrease in profits, what could be one issue that the client could be facing to break down this problem? Would anyone like to give it a try? I encourage you guys to.
Cost of resources, maybe?
That is definitely one, but that will be further down the line. So we go next. We can
The
press one
sales
animation, John.
the sales volume decreased.
Yeah, those are both very good answers, and we'll move on to how I guess broken this down. So we press an animation, Joel. I've broken this down into revenue and profits. So if we're decreasing profits, that implies a decrease in revenue. And then I would ask myself, how come revenue decreased? Did the price of what we're selling decrease or the quantity sold decrease? I think someone mentioned this,
Most likely
which
quantity.
is most likely quantity. Well, it could be both, but I've broken down this issue again. So I broke down the quantity sold. So what could be the reason? Oh, sorry. I guess we have the answer, but why quantity sold could have decreased is because maybe number of customers decreased or did the basket size per customer decrease. So are they buying less on each transaction? Now we're going to move on to the other side, which is profits. Oh, this was obviously the cost increase, a little typo. So costs do increase. I guess profits will decrease naturally. So who
Um,
can,
maybe
oh,
like things like exporting goods, maybe there's like a tariff on the good, so like they have to um increase the price of their product, and then in turn customers wouldn't want to buy the product anymore because it's too expensive. So that could lead to a larger cost to the business owners.
very, very valid answer. But to approach this, I kind of used, I guess, broader buckets at the start and then narrowed down later to make sure I'm covering everything. So the first two buckets identified, I break it down to variable costs and then fixed costs. So with fixed costs, these costs stay the same. With variable, they're always changing. So to break down variable costs, can anyone give me any sub issues that this could be broken down to? Maybe someone that hasn't spoken before. You can also like type in the chat. I'll give it a couple of seconds. Um, maybe if anyone else wants to give it a go. Oh, I'm not reading the main chat. Okay. Labor/raw resources. Yeah, there's a totally that. And for fixed costs and wages are a very good point as well. So we'll start with variable costs. So break it down this into cost of goods increasing and also operating costs increasing. And for fixed costs, I looked at rental costs, which are typically fixed, and also asking ourselves, do we make a big investment and put all our money into something? And then moving on, I also did another sub-issue branch on cost of goods to provide some examples. So this can also be labor costs here, followed by, oh, well, followed by raw material costs, and also maybe overhead costs or storage costs. So this is just a quick example of how you might be able to use an issue tree to maybe break down a problem in terms of what's expected at 180C just for the case interview component. Something like this is probably really, really detailed and probably not what is expected. This is more towards probably what might be able to expect in a project with a really, really detailed issue tree. That wraps up the case assessment tips. Thanks, John.
Amazing. I think I'll take on behavioral interview, but firstly, I guess some things I'd add to that. That was a really, I guess, well-run demonstration of what an issue tree looks like, and that's probably like the first core steps of our methodology at 180 Degrees Consulting. Um, Firstly, I'll preface that I think the cycle that Ethan showed earlier is something that's super useful, not just for consulting, but honestly for a lot of careers or work experiences that revolve around problem solving. So I know not all of you might be interested in consulting as a career in the future and you might be experimenting. I think that framework or that way of thinking has just helped me so much in terms of career opportunities and tackling things with ease going forward. I think the second part I want to add is yes, like Ethan mentioned, we don't expect that level of detail maybe in a case interview. Of course, we welcome it, especially if you do have that experience. But, I going into 180 probably wouldn't have been able to do it to that detail, and that's fine. What we're really looking for is that you at least are curious about it. If you come across a term that you don't know, you ask about it, you research about it, or you want to learn. You genuinely have that curiosity. And secondly, that you take that initiative to try and think outside the box and you don't really give up when you don't know how to approach a certain thing. Because we'll definitely be there to help you through that part of the case interview. Um, I guess that's what the point of an interviewer, at least in 180 style interviews. So that's a bit about the case portion, but going into the behavioral portion. So if we go on to the next slide, you'll see some key things that we try to emphasize at 180. So I talked about the recruitment earlier. The criteria we're looking for. So firstly, passion for social impact, but there's prior work experiences. And I guess in terms of those applicable skills, that stems from problem solving to teamwork to an adaptable growth mindset. So how do you kind of demonstrate those in a behavioral interview? Well, I guess firstly, something I'd like to emphasize, and maybe how to ace the behavioral interview is probably the wrong title for this slide because I guess the behavioral interview isn't really like a test, and you shouldn't go into it thinking that it's like a test. I think the best behavioral interviews that I've had felt more like a conversation. So that's the first point here, right? Be authentic, be yourself, as cringe as it might sound. As much as we want to know if you're a good fit for us, you'd also want to find out if we're a good fit for you and if you'd actually find value and benefits from our community and also from our learning and development because it might not be for you and that's totally fine as well. University is all about discovering like what's right, what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. So just come in with your whole self and tell us about what you genuinely enjoy. That passion for social impact should be authentic, should be natural, and shouldn't feel forced because otherwise you wouldn't really enjoy the work that we do. And I guess that leads into the second point, which is to know the work that we do, because obviously as exciting as it is also quite a lot and it is quite challenging and it can be mentally tough at times. I think that's how you grow from doing things that are mentally challenging. So this webinar was designed to help you understand better the projects that we do at 180. But, go through our recruitment booklets, go through our social media. We have lots of insights into what life at 180 looks like. We started our takeover series run by our amazing marketing director. So you can kind of get insight into what actual 180 life looks like up close. As I say that, I do want to also add that we don't want you to regurgitate all that information from our booklets because that doesn't tell us that you know our work. We want you to understand it properly, reflect on what does these criteria or role descriptions mean to you? How could you bring value to our club just as we could provide value to you? And of course, you might not really have a clear idea of that just from reading all the words. Honestly, like when I was reading the recruitment booklet for the first time, I was a bit confused. I was like, what does 180 really do? But again, that's why we're creating opportunities like this webinar, the Q&A session, or providing our details to you at all. It's so you can ask us if you have any questions, if you want to learn more. And again, that's also a good indicator that you're interested in the work that we do. And that tells me that you'll be good at the work that we do. Even if you don't have this prior knowledge, you're willing to learn and develop those skills. And I guess the main thing in terms of demonstrating your capabilities. So again, we're not expecting you to have like solidified consulting experience. We just want to know that you can learn easily, you like challenges and you work well in teams and that you're resilient. So have examples ready. Some people I know like to have like a bank of different scenarios or situations they've been through that relate to the core criteria of a role. So you can flow with that. Others might be a bit more natural, like you hear a question and the situation comes to you naturally. People have different styles in interviews, so just be aware of that. But yeah, have those examples ready and be as specific as possible. We don't want to hear about generic experiences that could be said by anyone. We want to know more about you. It links back to the first point, right? And we want to know what situations in particular that you've been through, the nitty-gritty, that tells us that you would be capable of going through a 180 project. Because I guess also one thing that we probably haven't touched on as much this webinar is that we're working with nonprofits, social impact organizations that are working with disadvantaged communities and likewise very vulnerable people. So there's this layer of sensitivity with all of the work that we do, which makes it harder, but also makes it 100 times more meaningful, in my opinion. So again, it's really important to us that we know that you're capable of being able to achieve this. And again, you don't need to have this stacked resume, but you need to have applicable skills from past experiences and that passion for the work and that willingness to learn. And again, ask us any questions. We're happy to answer them and give you advice or elaborate on what something means. But yes, I guess I'll pass it on to Joel, Ryan, and Haroon to talk about some of their exciting experiences at 180.
Yeah, thank you, Corey, again. So right now we're moving on to hear more from our current members, and we'll start off with Ryan, who was team leader for the break, and then it will be followed by Harun sharing his experience as People and Culture Officer without and having not been in 180 before. So Ryan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. I guess the way I'm going to talk about this is really try to take my own personal experience and apply that to, really the important concepts you've heard today across the recruitment stuff and even the tips for interviews. So yeah, I started as a project consultant in semester two of last year. When I look back on that experience, I can say I think one word comes to mind, or maybe two actually. First one being learning, and the second one being exposure. I think as a project consultant, and you would have seen the kind of tasks you expect to do, you learn a lot of the fundamentals to consulting, be it how to break down an issue as Ethan went through before, how to use research to answer those questions, and how to kind of present information to the client in a manner that's digestible, be it through reports or slide deck presentations. And I think that experience is very unique, at least in my project, because I went in knowing that I think I would learn those, but I walked away learning things I wouldn't expect. And the biggest thing would have been stakeholder and client management. I'm not going to beat around the bush. That project had a few obstacles. There were highs, but there were also lows. And those lows really taught me, your project can go so smooth sailing, but it can be kind of taken out from you at any second. And that means you have to build really a level of resilience and kind of put your ego aside. You might have been doing a lot of great research and a lot of great work, but at the end of the day, if your client doesn't really appreciate what you've done or you haven't done what they've asked to the word, then none of your work really matters. So it was really that kind of learning experience that made me interested in applying for the role of team leader because my team leaders were amazing. They were going through the same thing. They were battling the same battles behind the scenes, but they never really showed that to us. They were always, very confident, very composed, very calm, even under the huge amounts of pressure that we were facing. So I really wanted to take on that role because I wanted to see if I could learn to be, just as composed, just as kind of calm if I was to face times of adversity. So I think as a team leader, the biggest difference between a TL and a PC is really as a PC, you're almost not shielded, but you don't, feel as much pressure to kind of have to deliver. I mean, obviously, we always want quality work from everyone, but definitely as a TL, you're almost the face of the club, right? You face up to your PCs, you face up to the executives, but most importantly, you are kind of the bridge between 180 degrees consulting and your clients. So that means everything goes through and you bear a lot of responsibility for essentially the success of the project. So that's something I wanted to take on. That's why I applied. And I think with being a TL, effective communication is everything. Again, it's not just communication between your PCs to ensure the work is being delegated and their work aligns with kind of the strategic vision you've had for the project since from day one. But again, ensuring that you and the client are on the same page every step of the way. I think that's probably the most crucial bit. Yeah, so you bear a lot of responsibility, and I think it's difficult. It's a massive learning curve, but it is very rewarding. Um, I think at the end of the project, something that really will resonate with me for I guess the eternity of time is not really the fact that we kind of got awarded accolades for our project. Is really just a simple email we received from our client saying, just thank you. Thank you for all the work you've done. It really means a lot to us. That really hit home for not just me, but for the rest of my team, knowing that our work made impact, right? It had social impact. So yeah, that's really on a kind of, I guess, the difference between a PC and a TL. I've also been asked to talk on kind of the applicability of issue trees and the MECE principle. I think they're very important, especially as a TL, to understand. As a TL, you are the head of the project. You kind of have the strategic vision for how you want to approach the problem at hand. And you also know you're under, a very practical time limit, time constraint. So the Macy principle is actually more important than you think. It's actually more practical than you think. You would think that it's kind of to break down the issue. It also has like efficiency purposes and intentions. Because if the way you've broken down the issue is not Macy, then you're essentially going to be assigning your PCs tasks that are overlapping with some of the work your other PCs are doing, right? And that's not very productive. That's not very effective. It's not very efficient either. So that's how the MECE principle applied to our project as a TL. And then I guess for the issue tree itself, I think um, don't see it as just something that you're using to break down the issue. It's actually more than that. It's actually something you keep relying on throughout the entirety of your project. Because the whole point as a TL is, you want to ensure that the project's going in the right direction. And sometimes you can get kind of so deep into a very small part of the issue tree that you don't really look at, the surface level, where are we at a very high level. So I think in terms of a project, it's, yeah, great. It's a great way to break down an issue, but it's not kind of a be all end all after week two. It's kind of a week 3, week 4, week 5 to week 12. It's something you keep referring to ensure that you are answering every question, that you have kind of done what the client has wanted you to do. And I guess then how that translates to, almost a case interview is you can almost see a case interview as a condensed project in itself, right? You obviously break down the issue that 1A will give you. And as you kind of progress through the case itself, you know, you might use another framework or you might use an issue tree, but you want to keep referring to whatever you've said at the start to ensure that you are going in the right direction. So that's how I'd see it. Its applicability to case interviews, but if you do become a TL or a PC, it is something that you use more regularly than you would initially think. Pass it to Arun for his experiences.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So yeah, I think I'll just share a little bit about my previous role in the club as PNC officer. Also, sorry if my voice is a bit inaudible. I'm a bit sick, but yeah. I think we've heard quite a bit about the operation side tonight, so I think I'll focus more towards the operation culture and personal experience. So I think I'll start off by why I wanted to join as a PNC officer. So I'd say I was always someone who valued community and connection, and I saw PNC as the perfect opportunity to contribute to the core of 180, so the people of 180. And I do think it's quite a unique role. Because you really are responsible for creating the culture of the club, where everyone is included and feels seen and supported, which is quite important, especially in such a fast-paced environment like consulting. And I say one of the biggest reasons as well why I wanted to join PNC was no matter what field or industry you're in, communication and people skills is something that is really truly valued. And throughout 180, and especially in PNC, you really get the chance to hone those skills. But yeah, I think at the start, to be frank, I was quite worried, quite intimidated because as an international student and as a first year as well, I was worried about two things. I think whether I would fit in with the vibes and whether I would meet the expectations of 180. And I think maybe some of you guys might be feeling that as well. I think especially when you're juggling different commitments, which a lot of people do actually. But I found that the support system within 180 is genuinely so strong. Like the people really do want you to grow and succeed. And we'll have, like, for example, my director, and I'm sure other directors as well, they really do emphasize on that. So they help us set goals, they check in on us, they support us in getting to where we want to be by the end of the sem. And they're not just somewhat ticking the boxes for the role, but they're doing much more than that. And you always get opportunities that you're trusted to take initiative on, but you're also not left to figure things out alone. So I guess in that sense, it was quite supportive. And I think just to touch back on the vibes of 180, again, as PNC, you're naturally quite involved in shaping that culture, which at the start it might feel like a bit of a pressure. I was worried, what if I wasn't a match? What if I wasn't enough to contribute to the team? But I still remember in my first week or two, I actually messaged my director saying something like, I didn't expect the culture in 180 to be the thing that really stood out to me the most. And it's really true. I think the people are what makes 180 so special, and you feel it the moment that you step in. Um, yeah, so in 180, you're really surrounded by really driven, really, really, really smart people, and really purpose-led people. So I do think that everyone in 180 isn't just there to somewhat polish their resume or build their CV, but actually to make an impact as well. And the fact so many of our members stay across multiple semesters, even in the same position as well, I think that really does highlight it. So yeah, I think even if you are slightly considering joining PNC or 180, I really do say go for it, and would really encourage it. Whether you're applying again for PNC, consulting, marketing, or any other roles that we talked about today, you're not just doing the tasks or ticking boxes, but you're actually contributing to a community. You're building real skills and shaping the experience for others as well in the club. And just to touch back on as PNC, you're not just supporting others as well, but you're also helping to shape the culture, the energy, and the experience of the entire club. And in the process, you grow so much yourself too. So yeah, I think overall it is definitely one of the most fulfilling roles I've had. And yeah, I think I'm more than happy to chat if anyone has any other questions. Yeah, I'll pass it back on to Joel.
Yeah, thank you so much to our two speakers for sharing about their experience. And again, feel free to reach out to them or like any of us on the panel, in this webinar as well, for if you have any questions regarding the roles, like we're more than happy to answer. And now moving on to the last part of this webinar actually is the Q&A section. So if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot away in the chat box. And we also have some questions from the sign up like registration form as well. So we'll be starting with that first, and then we'll answer any of the questions that are in the chat box. So please feel free to ask like any question that you have. Yeah. But yeah, I think one of the most common questions we got from the registration form was actually what makes a candidate stand out in the recruitment process. So if anyone would like to answer from 180, please feel free to. Or I could take that question. Yeah. I think what makes a candidate stand out, I would say there isn't like a specific thing. I think it's more of, showing that you have this willingness to learn and also um uh are happy to like get the most out of 180. Like you're not joining just to have something on your resume. You're joining because you genuinely want to help like not for profit organizations, and you do want to have a say in like, like how are they progressing in the future, and you want to know that you're actually making an impact with like the project that you're doing and the project that you're investing so much time in. I think that's the most important like value for us. Like you show that you're willing to learn. And I think our interview like sections also like reflect that as well, because we don't have any like technical questions per se. I think some people also ask about it, like how do you excel in technical questions? And I would say that in our interviews we have no technical questions at all. So like nothing about, asking you to estimate like the numbers of anything. Like no, like what we want to know from you is, what your thought process is, and like what are your motivations for joining 180 as well. So I would say, I guess a tip for like your applications would be showing, like why do you want to join 180? What reasons do you have for joining, like wanting to join 180, and what about 180 like stands out to you? And for example, like our mission, like the fact that we, engage with like non-for-profits and actually make an impact with the organizations that we're helping. I think that's the most important part. And also like just showing that like how you think as well. Like we want to know like what your thinking process is during the interviews, because we'll have like case interviews, case like studies that will be given to you, and we just want to know how you thought about your like solution. Like the solution, there's not a correct solution, I would say. We just want to know how you're thinking about it and what are the steps that you have gone through to actually come to that conclusion. So I would say like that's what we're looking out for. Willingness to learn and what are your reasons for wanting to join 180? Yeah. Anyone else can add on if they want to.
Yeah, I think Joel, you kind of encapsulated it pretty perfectly. I think if I were to add to that, or maybe just even talk about having done like quite a few 180 interviews in the past, like hosting them, the things that stood out to me is firstly kind of like what I mentioned before, the interviews that felt more like a conversation. And for me personally, like the way that I interview, and I think the way that most of us interview, is that we don't stick to just the questions asked. Like for example, let's say you've answered a question and maybe you haven't hit on like everything that we're looking for. We'll give you that opportunity to demonstrate that or to hit that. Or I guess another way is like if you give us an example, we'd want to learn more about that and focus on your experiences more and learn more about you as a person. So again, like just really I want to know that you care about the things that you've done in the past and that you can bring that care and passion to the work that we do as well. I'd say for the technical stuff, yeah, we don't have many technical questions for PC. That's more so for team leader, again, because kind of like Ryan was talking about in his chat, our projects are quite a lot of work for team leaders, and you will have to make sure that there's this element of like precision and just ensuring like I guess, less error and more certainty for the client too. So we do want to ensure technical capabilities there. But again, like Joel said, for PCs, we're really just wanting to see that you're willing to learn and give your best to everything. I think that's what we've seen from our PCs this semester. They've all done really amazing because they're just like they've shown up to everything. They've brought their 100%. They've asked us questions throughout it. And they're showing natural progression towards that team leader role, which is something to keep in the back of your head as you start your 180 journey too.
Yeah. And just to highlight our officers as well, like they're really passionate about 180 and they're always, giving their best, even in like the branch meetings, the trainings, the social events. So really like we're looking for passion. Yeah. And does anyone else have any other question? Feel free to like unmute yourself or just put it in the chat. Oh, okay. Are we recruiting consultants? Yes, we are recruiting for project consultants, but applications for project consultants will only open on the 11th of July and it'll close on the 23rd of July. So there'll be a chance for you guys to actually visit us in person during O week as well if you have any concerns or you just like to learn more about 180 in real life. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Can you apply for both consultant and officer positions? Yes, you can. And we've also had some questions on this for like the registration form. You can apply for both positions, but if you do get accepted into both positions, you will have to pick one because we don't allow for like dual roles in the consulting side and the project side. I mean the project side and operation side because both roles would require a lot of like time commitment and especially so with like consultants as well required to do quite a bit of work. And for officers, you will have to be present in, I would say, all of the 180 events. So we don't allow any dual like role holding in 180, but you can apply for both positions. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Are officer interviews online or in person? Yeah, so for officer interviews, they would be online because we do understand that right now it's a holiday period as well, and some people aren't in Melbourne, and for international students as well, likely not in Melbourne. So we will be holding it online for officer interviews. Yeah.
I see a question before that says, ask any tips for incoming UniMelb students with little consulting experience. I'm happy to open the floor to that one after. Just the little things that I'd add, maybe when I was preparing for a project consultant, I think I applied in my first year and I was fresh out of high school, so no actual like consulting internships, consulting related skills. what helped me a lot is that I looked at 180 interviews online. There's actually quite a few like AC, mock AC examples on YouTube, which helped me kind of get a sense for those type of questions I might be asked, and maybe some potential ways I could structure my answer or how I approach a case interview. Because I think case interviews can be quite new for people who've never interacted with that before, particularly for our project side roles. Um, Again, these webinar slides, we've attempted to kind of show you a bit about what we do because that echoes what I guess the case interview is supposed to reflect what a project would look like just in shorter time. And we're just looking for those skills of, again, like, do you enjoy breaking down problems. Like when you're given a problem statement, do things naturally come to mind? And they don't have to be perfect or structured, but just the fact that you're thinking and you're innovating and over experience and through time, you'll learn how to structure those better. But I'd say, yeah, look at ACs online, look through these webinar resources again, ask any questions. If you don't know any terms that you've seen today or in those mock ACs online, search them up. Um, they use ChatGPT to help you with that. I know it can be a helpful resource too. Did anyone else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, if I can add to that as well. I also came in with no experience, and I think something that helps is, just say whatever, like whatever you're thinking of in your head, just, like voice it out to your interviewer as well. Because we just want to know like what your thought process is. And even if you don't think it's the right solution, like that's fine. Like we're not looking for the right solution. We're looking for, yeah, how you think and also how you interact with the people in your group case study as well. And that's for project consultants, but I think for team leader as well, we also want to see like how you're approaching the case and also how you would, and I think in the behavioral questions, we're also trying to gauge how you would assist your project consultants as well, because the team leaders are quite involved with helping to grow the project consultants and also guide them in like the projects as well. So yeah, and don't worry if you don't
I'm
have
reading.
any
Oh, sorry.
experience.
Uh, I'm reading a question again, and it says incoming UniMelb student. I guess that might imply you're not currently a student and you might be like starting semester two, 2025. I might be totally wrong, but that is totally okay. And like Joelle and Corey, I didn't come into 180 with any consulting or like fancy corporate experience. But what we're looking for is your passion for social impact and that you're willing to learn and you're willing to try something new. Most people who join 180 don't have any prior experience in consulting or even like previous clubs. So we are totally welcome of people from like all backgrounds. I don't know if like Ryan or Harun has anything to add.
I think I think people get pretty infatuated with the like at least case interviews, maybe the content or perhaps like the business. Is there business acumen there? I think it doesn't really matter. I mean, Corey said, it's great to have a like a suss of, some case booklets or mock interviews online. But I think at the end of the day, success in these case interviews, and I'm speaking from personal experience because this is something I strive to do or improve on, even as we speak today. It's structure. I think, as Joel said, it's really not your answer, it's your approach. And as you're voicing things out, just take a second to think about, how does this fit in with a framework I'm coming up with? Um, and I think in addition to that, don't think that you have to have like the right answer to everything. I think something that probably has been mentioned is, you're more than free to ask questions throughout the interview itself. And the reason that is because again, it's not about, whether you get the right answer immediately. It's actually, even if you don't get the right answer immediately with the amount of information you have at the moment, are you capable of asking the right questions to get closer to potentially the right answer? And the reason for that is because in a consulting project itself, at the start of the project, it is like crucial that you ask as many questions to your client. Because speaking from even this semester's project, even though it's, relatively a success, I think something that could have made it better was making sure that we were asking even more questions at the start to avoid kind of confusion around what we were actually doing later on in the semester. So if you apply that logic to a case interview, make sure you ask as many questions as you need so that you know you're on the right track and you know you're getting closer to what you think you want out of the issue.
Yeah, I think just to add on a bit as well, I think you definitely want to show all this by, for example, just trying to show that you're really curious. You know, we're not perfect, and you're there to learn. You're there to like ask questions and take as much as you can in. And in that position as well, where you don't necessarily have a lot of consulting experience, I would also say to try lean into your other soft skills. So things like communication, time management, and empathy, those I would say they matter as much as frameworks, especially in 180 where, collaborating with people is somewhat key. And just be open to feedback as well, show that you're there to learn. But yeah, that's all.
Nice. Oh, Joel, do you want to take the question in the chat, the latest one?
You can take this question if you.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I was just going to read it out and then open it to
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we got asked how much technical knowledge is required for the TL position. Do you have any advice for people with limited project experience? Which I think is an excellent question, especially because team leader can be daunting. I think probably best to hear from Ethan, Joel, or Ryan first, who've had the past TL experience.
To you, Ethan, or me?
No, I'm happy to take it.
Yeah.
I guess how much technical knowledge is required for the TL position? I think one thing to keep in mind, at the end of the day, we are all students trying our best at consulting. So I wouldn't say a ton of technical knowledge or experience is required, but I will say it is highly recommended to do PC first. I've seen people who have gone into TL without doing PC or without that much experience struggle a bit because it is hard to know what is expected of you and getting the right guidance and training. And I think at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's what some people miss out on. And I think just having the context as PC and understanding how a 180 project works first is really important to being a good TL. And I think one part of being a TL is that you kind of need to be a step ahead of the PCs to lead a team. If you're on the same level as your PCs, I think you would ask yourself, am I really leading this team or am I another PC? And I think that's one of the vital points of being a TL. So you do have that confidence when you're leading a project. You do have that confidence when you're talking to the client and you know what you're talking about. Because I think ultimately without that, you will, or you might struggle a bit. I guess on an individual level, you could be like an absolute beast. And I'd say go for it if you think you have the skills. I don't think there's any harm in not applying or applying. There's no harm in applying. So definitely if you think you have a shot, I would apply if you think you have the right experiences. Just keep in mind also, if you do apply for TL, you'll also be considered for PC. So keep that at the back of your head.
I think really good answer from Ethan. And maybe I'll add like a bit of color to the flip side of that as well, because I've seen a lot of strong TLs from the past who haven't had past PC or 180 experience and have done excellent, have done very, very amazing. But I do want to break down like why did they like how did they do well? How are they equipped? And I think it again reinforces Ethan's point in the fact that they had that past project experience or past work experience. So they knew how to manage clients, manage these problems. So I think that's something to also consider, like whether you have that because like we've talked about today, a lot of that role will be liaising with a lot of stakeholders, right? Liaising with the client, liaising with your project mentor, but also guiding these PCs and upskilling them so that they can become future team leaders or social impact leaders. So there's a lot to manage. If you have that past experience and you think you could gain value from that position, definitely encourage you to apply. Like Ethan said, you have nothing to lose because you're considered for PC anyway, and it's such a good experience, I think, even just going through the interview. Maybe like if I will, maybe if you want to see whether you're capable. Maybe there's like a little exercise or something that you can try. Because at 180, Ethan talked about the 7-step project methodology, right? So he kind of you saw there was like the circle and it was more of a general 7-step methodology. In terms of when we're currently fleshing out like our project management systems for next semester, but how that looks like from a team leader's perspective, that 7-step is firstly defining the problem, then creating the issue tree, prioritizing the drivers on that issue tree. Then you hypothesize, okay, so what are the key issues? And you do research and analysis and delegate that between PCs. You create a recommendation pyramid from there, and then you storyline that into a final deliverable for the client. So I think confidence with that methodology indicates that you're probably going to be a strong TL. So this will be recorded, so maybe you can refer back to that. But that's the methodology we follow in our team leader program. Maybe you can test that out with a certain situation or a non-profit problem, whether that be, again, fundraising, partnerships, volunteer attention, anything. There's like a slide on the different project types earlier, and see if you're confident with that. Maybe that could be a good indicator.
I'll keep my bit short. I think short answer, if you need technical knowledge, no, because as Corey and Ethan have alluded to, there have been many TLs in the past that have been incredibly successful without having even been exposed to consulting or even the business side of the world at all. I think probably the key um, factor in determining whether you make a good tier or not, regardless of whether you've done consulting before, is how or your ability to learn and how quickly you're able to learn. Because even as someone who'd done a project before and had consulting experience prior, there's more to projects than the problem solving itself. There's, effective communication again with your client. How do you manage the morale of your team? How do you manage relationships between, all the different stakeholders? So there's more to being a leader than kind of solving the problem. There's a lot to do with people management as well. So I think, again, regardless of whether you've had experience or you haven't, if you're a quick learner, then you'll find that it shouldn't be too hard to adapt.
Yeah, thank you for that. If we don't have any more questions, we'll be ending the webinar now. So yeah, if there's any last questions, feel free to pop it in the chat.
Also, shoot us an email. Are our emails being provided, or should we drop them in the chat, Joel?
Yeah, you can drop it in the chat. Yes, and you can also contact us on social media as well. Yeah.
I
Okay,
think we have
so
emails on our
yeah,
link tree
yeah,
on our Instagram.
I think in our booklet as well. Yes. So yeah, feel free to refer to that. And yeah, thank you for coming as well. Also, feel free to join the community program so that you guys can get updates on, what events that 180 has, and also updates on the recruitment timeline as well, because we will be posting updates on social media. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for coming to our webinar, and hope you guys learned more about 180, and feel free to contact us whenever about any questions or any application tips as well. We're happy to help.
Bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night.